highly volatile situation playing out in a Chandler neighborhood as police have surrounded a suspect they believe to have been responsible for the overnight shooting of a Chandler police officer. So a very fluid situation. We want to get to Gibby, who has been covering this throughout the morning. Gibby, over the last hour and a half or two, you've heard shots fired out there. You've been moved to push back from the scene, definitely for your safety. So this remains an active scene right now. What's the latest?
Here's the latest, Olivia. We can now confirm that a second officer has been shot. Now, this scene shows you now that not only one, but two officers have been confirmed shot in this. That officer is going to be okay, although he was transported to the hospital. He will survive those injuries. He was hit in his protective vest. It didn't appear to penetrate. He did have a wound to the back of his head, but that is probably from him falling down or him hitting his head as he was moving back. I'm going to bring in Detective Seth Tyler, who is joining us here. Detective, as we talked about it earlier, now that a second officer is shot, this goes to show you what kind of suspect you're dealing with.
Absolutely. It's an extremely dangerous individual. The first shooting has occurred only about 100 yards behind us to the south of us. And then, of course, the second shooting about 100 yards north of us. This all started about 1 o'clock this morning, where one of our patrol officers attempted to contact who we believe is the same individual. He was a suspicious individual. The officer attempted to contact him. He fled from the officer, fired multiple rounds at the officer, striking that officer once below the waist. Thankfully, that officer recovered to the point where he's already been released from the hospital. As we were, we broke the perimeter down. As we were, gathering leads and intelligence, we still had support units out here that were doing canvasses, and it appears that's when the second shooting occurred. We did have an officer that was shot. It appears that officer was shot in his protective vest. I actually had a quick chance to see him before he was transported. He was conscious. He gave me a thumbs up, very encouraging. He did have the laceration to the back of the head. So this is obviously a very fluid, very dynamic scene that's going on, but we do believe we have the suspect contained inside the house.
The whole deal now is whether he is alone or not alone, and that'll give you time. If he's alone, then you have time to work with. If there are people in the home, it makes it a bit difficult to deal with, right?
Absolutely. If he's alone in the home, and if we can confirm that, we have time on our side. And if he's not alone in the home, there are other avenues that we can do to try and get those individuals out. So I will find out where we are at with occupants, negotiations, but just for everybody to bear in mind, the scene is contained. We have a number of officers out here on scene. We have as many people along Delaware Street evacuated that we could get. And we are doing everything we can for a peaceful resolution to this incident.
Okay, thank you very much, Detective Seth Tyler, who's joining me. And luckily here, the good news here, Olivia, is that even the second officer is going to be okay. As he mentioned, giving him a thumbs up before he was taken away by ambulance. But it shows you the individual they're dealing with here. Not only shooting the one person or the officer earlier this morning, but not scared to do it again. And that's what they're dealing with in this home. What they're hoping is that there is no one else inside this home. That'll give them the time they need to negotiate with the suspect and bring him out.
Yeah, critically important for the SWAT team negotiators, and I imagine, snipers are probably set up. They need to know that that home is otherwise empty, because this is clearly a person who is armed and dangerous, and at this point almost is showing they've got nothing to lose. So so glad to hear that officer was able to give a thumbs up upon leaving, and gosh, just a very developing situation out there. Dangerous. Gibby, thank you so much for the continuous coverage this morning. We wish all of those law enforcement teams out there the very best to get this contained, and we'll continue to update you throughout the morning. Gibby, see you soon.